Hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters. My name is Ann Pinkava and joined as always by the lovely Deplorable Knitter. And we have a special guest today, Robin, who will tell some very interesting stuff. But first, our sponsor.
This we're I was going to say this week, but every week we are sponsored by Chicken Lady Faber Arts. She has beautiful yarns like these patriotic colors that she dyed up just for me, like totally awesome. She's got this really cool Ghoul's Eve, which is gray, and I believe it's light reactive. It's got some like greens and some yellow tones in it, and it's absolutely awesome. So you can get Chicken Lady yarn by using the code Goldfinch
Goldfinch
20.
20 PIK. There we go.
So yeah, you can use the code Goldfinch 20 PIK to pick up her yarns for 20% off. Super awesome. Anna and I have been working for the past couple of years to get a coffee person because if you've watched at all, you know that Anna and I are pretty much addicted to our coffee. And so I'm super excited to tell you guys that we are partnering with Bone Frog Coffee. And if you use our code, um, we have an exclusion, and they have really awesome coffees. They are veteran made in the USA, veteran owned and operated. Their motto is God, Country, and Team. And my husband, who is kind of annoying when it comes to coffee, like he will only drink like super dark Colombian, and I hate most of the things he likes. We both are in love with the Valor specialty blend, so really cool, really great coffees. I love the red, white, and brew. So very cool. If you guys want to try them out, the code is in the description. Be right here on the screen too. So awesome. Very excited to tell you guys about that. And with that, I think that's all the business we got, right, Anne?
Does that end our knit along?
Oh, yeah.
It's November. We have our knit long and prosper knit along. Rules are we have a bingo card going, that any projects you have can be 3 squares on the bingo card. But if there's anything that's in your project that is star themed, because it is Star Trek, Star, Galaxy, Alien, or the color of the month for November is gold, you can just cross off any square on here. At the end of the month, go ahead and email that card to politicallyincorrectknitters@gmail.com, and that will enter you for the giveaway. We're doing it for November, for December, and January, and there will be a giveaway for each month. So yeah, join in the fun.
Yes. And there are awesome yarns from Mystery Mouse Yarns. And is the Chicken Lady stuff going to be available?
Yes, the
Or
Chicken
is
Lady
that just
stuff
for
is
us?
available right now.
Okay.
So she has a Knit Long and Prosper set where it's 3 mini skeins with the gold and the red and the blue, and also a large skein with speckled yarn in it. It's so cool. And again, our code Goldfinch 20 PIK for that. But yeah, and Susan of Delightful Works has bags, and Holly of Mystery Mouse, her Energized yarn just came out, which is gold and kind of light blue speckles throughout.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
So
very cool.
any of those will get you squares on the bingo card and, support our friends. It's awesome. Make something cool. Um, and all of the rules are going to be in Blocked Magazine. I'm going to post them on my Patreon. Um, I'm going to see if Anne will put them on her website. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, sure.
Um, but yeah, so start knitting or crocheting or whatever craft that you want to do that fits into the make along. We're not picky. If you can make it work with your chosen craft, go for it.
Mm.
So, with that
So
all, very
we've left our
exciting.
guests hanging long enough.
I know. Well, we had a lot to talk about this morning or this morning. Jeez, it's like 8 o'clock at night. But yes, so we are joined by Robin. Thank you for coming on with us.
Hey, I'm Robin.
So Robin and I hooked up on Instagram and we started talking, and you do crochet, correct?
Yeah, I do crochet.
You do crochet, but you're not like our viewers, you're not somebody that they necessarily would have come across because it's more of just a hobby page for you. So um
So that's a little it's like a hobby page for me, and I actually set it up just to like differentiate between my personal space and my hobby space. And yeah, I try to get to know some of the people in the space, but kind of like on the politically, I'm a little bit politically incorrect. So um I just figure out it's not a space that I really want to hang out that much in. Yeah, so that's
Yep.
basically it.
Yeah. So, um, but you and I have been talking on there on and off for I think a couple of years now that, we've chatted about different things. And I don't know, about a month or so ago, you and I started talking about immigration, and you just had so many different, because of your experience as a person who has immigrated to the US and
Mm.
different things, you just had so much that was so interesting, and it's not necessarily what we're hearing all the time in the media and different things, and that's part of why we wanted to have you on. So, um, do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about like your journey?
So as shared that I'm actually an immigrant, and then I got here on the K1 visa. So if you were to ask what's a K1 visa, so I guess most people have seen like the 90 days fiance. So it's basically a marriage visa. So I got here. I met my husband on the internet, and then we met in person, and then decide to apply for the visa for me to be here and finally be together. So yeah. Um, one little misconception about that K1 visa is because of 90 Days Fiance. People watch too much of variety shows, and I think generally most of us are pretty normal people that just want to be together. That's all, and we don't live like a crazy drama life like what you see on variety shows. And there's a lot of things that's not really talk about, in the shows. I mean, of course, it's variety shows, so it's for the drama. So
Are you saying that
I
reality TV isn't quite real?
yes, yes, it's not real. So one of my husband's coworker found that I'm like the 90 days, the real 90 days fiance. So he tried to say that, get us to apply to be on the show and all that. And then my husband was like, I don't think we really do that much things, to be that interesting for the show, to be interested in us. I was like, yeah, kind of, just live like a normal life. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty invasive. Like you're trying to like get to know somebody in real life, and then oh hey, here's some cameras. Like, I think most people don't need that extra like stress when they're trying to make things work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they really pay you that much anyway, so
So yeah, it's not worth it.
yep. So I got here in November 2018 on a K1 visa. So prior
Okay.
to applying for the K1 visa, prior to November 2018 coming in on the K1 visa. So um do you want me to walk through the steps that you have to go through to
I
get the
mean,
K1 visa?
yeah, the sure. I don't know anything about it. So,
Okay, so prior to getting the K1 visa, you have to put in an application for it. So, like I said, I did a little homework. I mean, it has been a little while, so yeah. You need to put in an application for this document with the USCIS, which is the Immigration Authority in United States, for a form called the I-129F, which is called for the petition for alien fiance. So
okay.
yeah. So this one is basically for your US spouse or US fiance to put in this application to get the foreign spouse into United States. And then, of course, you need to pay a sum of money for it, which is $675, which is mm, They probably increased the price. I don't even think I paid that much, but I'm not able to look up how much did we actually pay for it. And then one of the criteria is that your US citizen spouse needs to meet a specific income requirement so that they can support you financially. So in this case, it's saying that you should not be a burden to the United States government. And then the requirement needed is about $20,440 for two-person. And then the price increases as, you have children and all that, more requirements or financial requirements is required. So once you file this paper, your case will be forwarded to each of the national, which they call it the National Visa Center, which is basically each of the country that you're coming from, the US Embassy, will actually handle the case. So once they receive the file, they will call for you to go for an interview before they issue the visa. So prior to the interview itself, you need to consolidate a bunch of paperwork to prove that, you're met in real life and then you're real. It's not like a marriage fraud or
Right.
anything like that. And then
Oh, is
yep.
oh, sorry. Is it a little bit like, I mean, there's some movies I can think of where like they go into an office and you have to like be able to answer questions about each other's, prove that you're not like just faking the system for or is that
So for the
dramatized?
US Embassy interview, I'm only going by myself. So they will ask you a bunch
Oh,
of questions, whether you know like your partner's date of birth, partner's name, and where do you
hmm
meet, like very surface kind of questions. And I guess they're trying to catch, like whether you know your things or you're trying to
right.
memorize it or kind of thing. So for this part, there's two documents that I like to highlight, but that probably may come, important later when we talk about it. One of it is you need to provide a police certificate from the country that you live for more than 6 months. So in this case, it's basically to check whether you have any criminal records in your home country or any other countries that you live for more than 6 months. And then the last one is you need to go for a medical checkup, which includes getting a list of vaccinations that you need to, get. So for this itself, you need to pay another sum of money, which is approximately $265 for the visa processing and all that. So
hmm
once
They
your
just
visa
nickel and
is
dime you the whole way through. Kind of more than nickel and dime,
Mm,
but
yep, kind of. And then so after this, they will decide whether to approve your visa or not. So, once it's approved, you have the visa in your passport and there's an expiration date on it. And the 90 days start from the point that you enter United States with that visa. So like you say, there's like nickel and dime you through, like these are all the, like the cost of the paperwork of filing. But there are additional costs that, as that's not seen, which is like the medical checkup, you need to pay for it for yourself. Um, if your home country doesn't have documentation in English, you need to get a translation being done. So that's another cost. Some people will, because it's just such a complex thing to navigate. Like if you're not like the kind of person to sit down and look through things and try to figure it out, people get attorney to file the paperwork for them. So that's another cost. And then if the US Embassy is not where you are living in, you need to travel to get the interview done. So there's like traveling cost. And then finally the cost of you finally flying to the United States. So these are some of the costs that that's not taken into consideration.
That's I guess I didn't realize that there were actually only 90 days once you came to the US. So like you came to the US, like I knew it was a show, but I guess I didn't realize that that was really truly like how it went down. So you came to the US and then what, you had 90 days to decide if you guys were going to get married or how does
So the 90 days is once you enter into the United States, within 90 days, you must get married. So because
wow.
of filing, the condition of that filing of that paperwork is that you have the intent to get married.
hmm
So within the 90
Mhm.
days, you have to get married, and then you have to start a new process of filing another set of paperwork. So yeah.
Hmm.
So it doesn't end as the show say like, oh, you finally got married after the 90 days and that's end of the story. No, there's still paperwork to be done after, the 90 days or wherever you got married. So you have to file another paperwork to the
Hmm.
like immigration people again. So that's like step two. So we complete step one, which is I found in the United States and I got married. And then now after getting married, we need to go for step two, which is the adjustment of status, which we'll file the paperwork, which we call the I-485, which is application to register permanent residency or adjust status. Because at K1 visa, you do not have any status in United States. You are just like a transient kind of thing. So that's why you need a step two, which is to apply for a green card. So for this, you will need to pay a fee of $1,440 for this paperwork itself. And then on top of that, mm, your US citizen spouse will need to sign a document which is called the I-864, which is called the Affidavit of Support. So this is actually a signed document to say that your US spouse will accept the financial responsibility for you, for you as in like the foreign spouse. And then it's a contract between your spouse, your US spouse, and the US government. So what this means is that the government has the right to recover from your US spouse certain public benefits that is used by you after obtaining a green card. So I try to get it right on the US CIS website says that any means tested public benefits. So I try to look up what does that actually means. I guess I never really looked up till now. So in this case, I'm not entitled to food stamps, Medicaid, supplemental security income.
Right.
So
So if
that's
so
yeah,
if you had somehow applied for that and got it, the contract that your husband would have signed says that he would have to pay that back to the government. Am I
the
understanding that correctly?
government has the right to ask you
Right.
to pay back. So yeah,
Right.
whether would they ask for it, I never tested out, so I'm not able to tell you about it. But basically, you sign the paper, so they have the right to get the money back from you. And then this contract will last till either you become a US citizen or, as they say, is credited with 40 quarters of hours, which I had to look it out what does that mean. Means that 10 years of working and paying for Medicare tax. So you'll be exempted and then you can start be applying for this public benefits. So in this case, we are not entitled to public benefits because of this being signed. Um, other than
So,
that, yep.
oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, so pretty much what you're saying is that until you've paid into the system long enough, you're not eligible.
Or become a United States citizen, then
Right,
you're eligible. So basically,
right.
what this red tape from the first point that you started this application is that you should not be a financial burden to the United States government.
So I don't know what Anne's thinking, but all I'm thinking while you're telling us this is that like you went and got medical checked to make sure that you were, healthy and you weren't, bringing a disease or something in.
Mm,
You had to have a criminal check to make sure that you were an upstanding person and were going to be an asset to the country. You had to say that you weren't going to like, get on government assistance the minute you got here. And it's just like so completely opposite what is happening with all the illegal people coming. And Does it make your blood boil? I would be mad if I jumped through all the hoops and then they were like, "Oh, here, you came across the border illegally. Here, have a freaking hotel room and a Visa card, and here's free health care."
And
And like,
yeah, and a free phone and food stamps, and you're like, okay, I have to pay money for this form, ka-ching, and I have to pay for this more money, and I can't use any of these things. And yet other people are like, oh no, it's all free. Take it, run, take the money.
That's why whenever people, are talking about like open border, I, try to be a good human being. I believe that, some illegals are coming in for the good, but
mhm.
majority of them are kind of not, so it's kind of like trying to leech on the system kind of thing. And then, every time I look at it, I'm like, the amount of dollar money that I'm just paying through is just ridiculous. And then I'm not even finished on the terms and
Oh,
conditions of the adjustment of status yet.
okay.
So
Oh wow, keep
during,
going.
Yeah.
so there's two things that we can talk about during this process. You are not able to travel during this process. You are supposed to stay in United States the whole time during this process of adjust of status. If you want to travel during while waiting for this process, you need to apply for a document which is advanced parole, and it's
Wow.
called a I-131 application for travel documents. And I don't remember paying for it, but I looked it up. Now you have to pay $630 just for this advanced parole to travel. And it's something new that's implemented in April 2024. So yeah,
Wow.
now you have to actually pay money for it. Um,
So if
so
if you're a couple and you're like, okay, so we got married and you know what, darling, let's honeymoon in like Paris or something. It's advanced paperwork. It's, messing with your visa status
mm,
potentially.
yep.
It's everything else down the line.
So in this case, if you leave without applying for this advanced parole, or you don't have this advanced parole to the to the immigration itself, you are abandoning your application. So
Oh,
yeah, it means like I guess you're no longer interested. Yeah,
That's
wow.
and
crazy. I just, I'm sorry, my brain hurts because it doesn't make sense to me. Um,
so during this process, you can't travel, and technically you can't really work because I never tried this one, but I looked it up, you will actually need to apply for a work permit to work while you are in this process because you're kind of like in a limbo. You're not like a citizen, you're not like a PR, you're just being
Right.
processed. Yeah. So
and so how long did it take you from the time you got married to the time you were like adjusted or whatever this is?
So I got married in November. I probably only got my status after this. Um, so I'm a little different because my husband is in the military. So for this part itself, you need to attend for a interview. You'll be called for an interview at a local immigration office. So I'm actually being called for interview maybe like 3 times. We only attend the third time because the first 2 times he was deployed, so he won't be around, and then
Okay.
we need to defer for the interview. And I probably took like 1 year and 1.5 years that long just because of he being away and not being present at the interview. But typically it won't really take that long. But for
Hmm.
now, I'm not too sure, but for what I know, they are on a backlog now. So, as they say, because
Right.
of COVID, yeah. So,
Mm.
mm.
Was that really hard for you? I mean, you came to a new country, you got married, and then you can't work, you probably don't really know anybody, and then your husband was deployed. Like, I imagine that had to be like quite difficult, so much to get used to. So I don't know. I
Um,
can't imagine.
it sounds, like talking about it when being in the moment is really difficult. And I didn't know how to drive. So, I mean, I do have a driver's license before coming, but I never drove, after getting a license, and it was just difficult to get behind the wheels, and I just never did drive. And but thankfully we live close to like a grocery store and all that, and everything is within reach. I'm still able to like walk or cycle to get my stuff, and basically like keep myself alive while
Hmm.
he's away. And not able to work is kind of difficult because that's probably the only thing that I really knew after like mm, graduating from university, and I've been working all the way till I finally come to United States. I'm just not able to work. Talking about meeting people, that's kind of difficult too, but I went through a period that I was kind of like depressed, and I just didn't know what to do, like how do I
Yeah.
say it? Once when you're always working, you're in a momentum, but once you stop working for a month, you're like, oh yeah, that's a break that I deserve. But after a month later, you'll be like, oh, I don't really have anything to do, kind of thing, I'm really bored. And that's
Yeah.
when, being depressed start to kick in, because you just like rather kick in and you just realize that you don't really have anything. So what really helped me was I went onto base and with the intention to look for volunteering things to do. So that's how it actually got me through that part, was actually volunteering for like the Naval Marine on the base. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, at least you had the base there that I'm sure that there were different things to do. It's not like you just came and sat in some neighborhood all by yourself. You're like, uh-oh, now what?
Um,
Uh,
I guess most people would be, they will probably be like close to their in-laws and all that. My situation is like a little different just because my husband is serving, so we don't really live
mhm.
close to our in-laws and all that. So I'm kind of like you say, just by myself and trying to figure it out. But um, not try to be like very negative about it. But when I look back, like it happens for a reason, and I'm a better person
No,
now and learn to grow in a different way. So yeah.
no, absolutely. You're talking about it and then you're like, oh yeah, and I could have probably, started working sooner, but my husband was employed and my brain just went, oh my gosh, like I can't imagine. Like I don't like it when my husband goes away overnight and I live next to my family and stuff. Like I can't imagine being in a spot where like I was new and it's just yeah.
You just figure it out,
You work it out, yeah.
you just keep banging the wall till it works, I guess.
Yep. So so after you got your interview, you're finally a proper person, or is there more you still have to do?
Do you want to make a guess?
There's probably more, right? They want more money from you, I would assume.
Yes. So usually that people will say that, after that you are married, you get a adjustment status. Oh yeah, you got your green card finally. Let's celebrate, you got your green card. Here's the but. But your green card is only valid for 2 years, which means you don't get your full-fledged 10 years green card. In general, green card is issued for 10 years validity, but because of like the marriage fraud and things, as people are coming illegally to come in to get married, get a green card, and run away and all the good stuff that the black sheep does. And then like the law abiding people has to suffer for it. So now it's like a 2 years conditional, they call it a conditional green card, which is only lasting for 2 years.
Okay. So when you get your conditional one though, were you like able to like go to work or
Yes. I'm able to
Okay.
work for that. Yeah, I'm able
Okay.
to, like find a job and all that. But finding a job is a whole new different story too. Yeah, so I'm not
That's
sure you
Okay.
want to move to the job part or you want to move to what's the next step of getting more money from me.
whatever you want to go. I mean, I'm sure that this is like, oh my gosh, this was so stressful to you and stuff. And Anne and I are like riveted. We're like, then you have to do what?
Yeah, just it just sounds like paperwork hell the whole way
Oh
through.
yeah, it
Just
sounds
trying to
awful.
make it as difficult for
Yes.
you as can be.
Almost every step of the way is like a stack of paperwork to go. I provided the purpose of me to provide, like the forms that we are supposed to fill up so that people can actually go and look through and look it up on, what has to be done, what's the requirements, what's the payment, um, that has to be done. So yeah. So after that, you get your 2 years green card, and then you're happy, you're everything. And
Okay.
then that's the step
What,
three now they have to do.
right. With the step three, what does it, I mean, I assume it's part of step three, but it's like, what does it take to re-up? It's like, no, 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 my marriage really took, like we're happy. I'm still
Yes,
here.
yes, that's
Like,
kind of so step three sounds a little ridiculous because you have to prove that your marriage is real. I mean, how are you gonna prove that your marriage is real? I
That,
mean, probably still staying
yeah.
together. I mean, but no, you have to do it in a paperwork form. So I know it sounds crazy, but I don't understand. I don't pretend that, try to understand what's going on. But anyway,
right.
so step three, you need to file for a paperwork which is called the I-751 petition to remove condition of residence. And then the money part, you have to pay $750 for this application. And then when to file for this application, which is within 90 days period before the expiration on your 2 years green card.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of paperwork that you need to put in. Mm, like you say, how to prove that the marriage is real. You have to be on each other's insurance beneficiary. You need to have like a shared joint bank account. You need to be on the car insurance. You need to be on a mortgage. You need to be on a house. Basically, joint anything that's possible in
You have to show that
financial
you're sharing
terms.
your life.
Yes, but I I feel that this financial thing is really like between like spouse, like between a
Hmm.
spouse, whether they decide they want to have a joint. It doesn't mean like if you're married, you have to have like a joint um everything because some people are just financially independent and all that. So I kind of feel like it's like a flawed thing, but I guess
Yeah,
it works for
but I
them.
mean, how are you going to do it? Like, I mean, I guess you could write on your application, like, it really bugs me that he doesn't put his socks in the hamper, which would be like an indication of a real relationship, but that's not super quantifiable. So,
Yeah, so you have a bunch of paperwork for that, and then it's on a stack of paperwork that you need to submit, and yeah. So once it's approved, then you will get your full 10 years green card.
okay,
Okay.
what happens after 10 years? Do you have to do it again?
Yeah, but I didn't look into the process, like what
No,
happened
no,
after 10 years.
I don't expect
You're
you
like,
to. You
hang on,
haven't
I'm
been
not
there
there
that
yet.
long.
Yeah, I'm
But
not there yet, but but
it's just a way for them to get you to do it again. Prove that you're
yes.
still here and
I guess 10 years, once you get 10 years, you're like kind of like the permanent residence. You're no longer like attached to the marriage thing.
oh,
That's
okay.
my guess. But they just like the initial part, they want to make sure that you're not coming in just for the green card, try to prevent marriage fraud and all that. So
Hmm.
generally, some people will go for US citizenship. So you can apply for citizenship after holding a green card for 5 years. So that's typically the next step, like for me, I'm probably won't go for US citizenship, so yeah, so we'll find out 10 years later what happened to me.
So most people go for US citizenship so that they can be like when we were talking on Instagram, you said that like there are certain things that you can't do because you have a green card and you're not technically
Yeah.
like living here. And that's because you don't want to give up your citizenship to your home country, right? Like if you become a citizen here, you have to renounce that.
Yes, because my home
Okay.
country doesn't allow dual citizenship. So if I were to become a US citizen, means I will have to renounce my home citizenship. But that's just thinking more forward. Let's say if I have kids, my kids will be able to have dual citizenship till they reach 18, and then they can decide, if they want
Hmm.
to, lean towards my home country or prefer to stay in United States. I personally don't want to rob them of that choice to make.
Mhm.
So that's why I will not go for citizenship till maybe much later, But yeah.
That's interesting. So I mean, that's a hard choice. I mean, you came to the US for your husband, but still you if you hadn't met him, I mean, you were living in your country and you were probably, doing your thing and it's not like these asylum seekers and stuff is I guess what I'm trying to say, like you're not coming because you hated it there. It's
No, not really.
situational,
It's not it's not really because, I need to escape my home country kind of thing.
right?
And, I don't really like live in like a very terrible country. So there's no
Yeah.
like, going for a better um how do I say it? To go for like a greener field kind of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah.
It's just I know. I kept doing this to you when we were talking too because I just my brain is like I I don't know. I've never imagined leaving the US to like live forever somewhere else. And so it's hard for me to like even understand. Like I love my husband, but if he went somewhere else, I don't know. I mean, I would follow him, but I don't think I'd do it very happily.
Yeah, I'm not so happy that, yeah, we had to move because of the military, but I just have to deal with it. So
Yeah, that's got to be hard too. So okay, are we done with paperwork now?
yes, unless you
Okay.
want to, I have a US citizenship application too if you are interested in that. I did my
Oh my
homework.
oh my gosh, I don't know. What do you think, Anne? You want to know about U.S. citizenship or you want to know other things?
I'm assuming it's more hurdles again to go through the process legally. It's more
Yeah,
issues and
So
paperwork and
I am not able to like speak in personal experience for this one, but this is just basically look it up on Google kind of thing. So for to apply for US citizenship, you need to file for this paperwork called the N400 application for naturalization, and then you have to pay a fee of $760. So in general, you can file for it after holding a green card for 5 years. And if your spouse is a US spouse, you can file for it 3 years after holding the green card. So
okay.
there are certain requirements that you need to meet for this. I think there's probably three, three requirements that's probably interesting. First one, you need to have good moral character. So I guess they'll probably check whether you are, commit any crimes within 5 years, 3 years being in United States. Then you need to be proficient in basic spoken and written English and have knowledge of US history and government. So this is a test that they need to sit for wherever they apply for a citizenship. And then the last one is to swear allegiance to United States.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of the people that are coming here don't want to do any of those things.
Like I said, there's something
I'm not
interesting
talking
that,
about,
the
but I'm
requirements
not
that
talking about like you or people that come. The people that come through the proper channels are doing it the proper way. So they're not the ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about the majority that are coming. I mean, if you break a law to get into a country, can you say that you have good more? I don't know. It's a hard spot to be in.
it's a difficult question to, like talk about, like whether is it moral or immoral to,
Hmm.
let's assume, to enter United States to have a better life, whether is it legally or illegally, like is it like an immoral thing? But we'll just talk about whether is it legal or illegal based on, the number of red tapes that a legal has to go through just to be here, and with what the illegals are coming in, and the charity that is being shown to them, and compared to the charity that's being shown to us is different. So
Hmm.
um that's one thing that frustrates me, and yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's almost as if the system wants them to be here, but not you.
Yes, it kind of feels that way, and I guess mm, I only can say, like the amount of charity that's being shown, like to them. Um, yeah, just speechless, I don't really have words for it.
I mean, you're a good person because I think that I would be really unhappy about it if I was in the position where I was watching all these people. And it was something that you and I talked about on Instagram when we were messaging.
Mm,
Like you said something about how you can't vote and these people are signing up to vote, and it kind of goes back to the, like, if you're breaking the rules to come in, do you care if you're breaking the rules to vote? Like, but you said you're almost a second class citizen because you're not going to give up your country, so then you don't get all the rights, and it's an odd spot to be in.
so born Americans are always like the first citizens in this country because you are born in this country. That's natural that the country should, you know, help or support, like Americans. I understand that. I mean, as a
Hmm.
permanent resident or like a green card holder, I'm like the second citizen because I'm not an American. There's no reason for the United States government to, help me or anything, like that. Any benefit should always go to Americans first. Then probably, like the elite, like the legal people should be, like have the overflow of that benefits. But, it's not something that we should expect because I'm just not American to have it.
Right.
And then speaking about voting itself, mm, so there's a misconception that some people have is that green card holders are able to vote. No, we are not able to vote, which is something that you can also look up easily, like online kind of thing. And I went and looked it up for my state that I'm living in. So in order to register to vote, you need to be a United States citizen. That's the first one. You need to have a residency in the state, and you need to be at least 18 years old, not serving any sentence, and not incarcerated. So
Right.
that if you are saying that the illegals can vote, that means the law is already being broken by the states. They are not, complying to the law that they set themselves.
Right.
So are there other things as a green card holder that you're not able to do, or is that really just it, like voting? Um, I
That's
assume you're
probably
probably not
like
allowed to like have a firearm, and I don't know, maybe you are.
I
But
never actually look into that if I'm able to actually have a firearms, but that's interesting. But I
I'm just
never
trying to
try to
think
look
of
it up.
like what else would, what are the big issues around here? I mean, you obviously have free speech and stuff. The only other thing I could think of would be that, but it's
So that's one thing that sometimes people don't really talk about is like people so let's go back to wherever I'm trying to find a job and all that. Um the translation or like the transition of trying to find a job here is difficult just because the resumes that I'm sending out, I do not have like any US experience. And
Mhm.
companies will be hesitant to actually call you back just because they look at it and they might think, oh yeah, she might need what do you call it, like a work visa in order to work here, or she's just trying to get a visa to come into United States and kind of thing. Um that's another hurdle to actually get over. And I did find out that that's not the only thing that we face as someone coming here, although you have like a good education and all that, but it really don't mean anything here, and you really have to start all over again. So
Mhm.
I do have like a bachelor's in engineering, and coming here, my first job was working as like a technical support, and my question was, why do working as a technical support needs a like a bachelor degree? Just doesn't make sense. And it was difficult to put down the pride and ego to say, I'm moving from like an engineering, like an engineer title to work as a technical support. But
Right.
I was talking to my husband's cousin. He was like, they are probably not calling you just because you don't have like a US experience on it. So just take the job, and we'll talk about it a year later to move on to
Mhm.
somewhere else that is more compatible for you. So I took the job. It's not really something that I want to do, but you just have to do it. And yeah, and finally, after 2 years and after a lot of job searching, I finally translate to, like move to a better job kind of thing that's more comparable to like the education level kind of thing. But during that job search, there's a lot of things that how do I say it? Is not companies actually put you go through. Like interview is already like a very intense process with like 5, 6 rounds, which is ridiculous. I don't even understand why.
Mhm.
But other than that, I have companies that say that, oh, what about your SAT scores? I was like, I mean, you look at my resume, I don't have an education in the United States. What do you mean SAT score? I say, I don't have an SAT score, I'm not through this system, so I don't have an SAT score. Or like people will be like, you know, I'm I'm not too sure whether your like your bachelor degree is legit. I'm like, what do you mean that you think that it's not legit? If you really have doubts about it, you can call up the school and try to verify. That's something you can do.
mhm.
I'm not going to try to convince you that I really have it, but you can go and verify if it's something that you're concerned about. And then other than that will be, like getting like the COVID vaccine kind of things and all that. And I don't understand you because you're speaking with an accent kind of thing. That's just yeah, just
It's got to be difficult. And like you said, you were working in your job, right? When you
yeah.
were in your country, and so
Mm,
now coming here, that's I I can't. I just don't have the words. I'm sorry.
But it's
And
just,
you,
things that, like legal people go through, and I guess some people may have it easier than me, but this is just my own personal, experience. And
I give you credit. I don't know that I would be so happy about all of the things if I had done all the work and then I people were like, "Well, are you really qualified though?" Like I wouldn't. But hey,
I know it.
um,
I hate doing resumes. I hate any sort of like even like intro questions, bio questions, and the entire thing where the entire process you have to prove yes, yes. Even with your visa, yes, I'm getting married. Yes, that's real. Yes, I do have a bachelor's degree. Yes, I have worked jobs. Thank you. And I can do this one, thanks. Just going on. It has to be kind of emotionally hard to be like, no, I really am who I say I am the whole time.
yeah, it's kind of difficult, like when we were going through the last step of like getting that full 10 years green card. So we filed it during COVID period.
Right.
So they're on a backlog, like because of COVID, you cannot go in, blah blah blah, and things like that. So I did have an extension for my green card for like 2 years or something, that they sent a letter
Ooh.
to extend the green card just because they are slow in processing. So earlier this year, they sent us a letter which is called the RFE, which they want to request for more evidence regarding that application. Um, I read it. It's kind of like you're in the process, and now you're telling me I don't have enough evidence being submitted after the number of years that has passed, just because you are slow in processing and all that. So I did look up a number of people that actually applied during that time or actually get an RFE. It's not because you did not it can be because you did not submit sufficient evidence, but mostly it's because of the time that has lapsed since you apply, and they want to make sure that you are still together, and they want the updated information and all that. So you know when you get that letter at that point of time and you open it and look at it, it just angers you. But when you
Yeah.
try to look it online and try to figure out what's actually going on, it's just because of the time lapse and all that. So when my husband saw that letter, he was so upset, and he said that, "What do you mean that I don't have enough evidence? What rights do they have to question, this marriage?" He was so upset, and then he was like, "You should just walk over the border." But yeah, that's kind of like a very negative emotion that he's showing.
well, I mean, yeah, it is a negative emotion, and I mean, I have kids, right? And I tell them all the time that having integrity is doing what's right even when nobody's looking. So like you guys can be confident in the fact that you have integrity, you've done everything the way you're supposed to, and you can still be mad about it at the same time. Like that's totally valid
Mm,
to feel that way. But I yeah, how it goes back to the how are you going to prove that you I give you so much credit. I would be so unhappy with this whole thing. I would be more like your husband, I think.
I look at it in a way, like I said, that coming to United States is not like a complete negative experience kind of thing. Um, my family obviously see negative that I'm coming here, and like all the suffering that I'm going through and all that, but it just makes you grow in a different way and look at things like in a different perspective and all that. And you can tell yourself like whatever comes along, I can do it. Just
Yeah.
bring it on. I don't care now. So yeah.
That's very cool. Um, so we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and you
Mm.
were talking a little bit about politics and your viewpoint, and um, I just I thought what you were saying about some of your thoughts was kind of interesting. If you wanted to share, I don't know.
So if elections coming and like that's like everybody is talking about it and so what I was sharing with earlier on was that prior coming to United States, I always thought that I'm like a liberal. And the point that is that because I think there should be like free education, there should be like a little like a welfare state, kind of thing. Everybody should, be entitled to um education and then like women's rights and all that. I would say that I'm kind of like a feminist, but that word now is kind of like a change definition now, but I would
Right.
say like not a modern day feminist. So I feel that
Right.
women still have the right to do whatever men can do, but also be able to say that at a point to say, I can't do it, I need the man's help for it. So I told my husband that, and then he said that I'm very sure that you're not a liberal, you're a conservative. So I'm like, no, you're crazy. So when I finally got here and, like finally looking at things and being like at ground zero and understanding how things are going and all that. And then I realized I'm definitely not a liberal. I'm probably like conservative or maybe like a middle ground kind of thing. Um, yeah, and then I realized, it's the news media that, we consume back home is kind of different. Um, for this election itself, we know like it's kind of more leaning towards the right side now from all the news media that we are looking at in US. But then, like my home just started talking about the elections maybe like 1 week ago on Monday, probably just ramping up the news and everything. And the news is very left and it's just purely left leaning,
Mhm.
which is kind of probably why when people read it outside, they'll be like, oh yeah, I want the left side to win. And then you will think that you're on the left side, but it's not like on an equal playing field of what actually is happening unless you are really interested and you do your own digging and look into things about it.
It's difficult too because, I mean, for example, if, we look over to England, any, like, from America's point of view, if you look over to England, you're just going to get the top of the BBC. But if you talk to conservative people in England, they're like, we don't listen to the BBC. That's awful. That's just, lefty stuff. We listen to other various news sources, and I get the impression that's, kind of how you felt looking at American stuff, that it'd only be like the mainest of mainstream news, and that's what gets delineated out of the country.
It can be like the mainstream news, like MSNBC and all that,
Right.
like ABC and all that, or CNN. Mm, I don't even think I really know about Fox when I was, like back home kind of thing. Also more of like what the local news wants to show. So that's also something that, like people depend on a lot. And back then, we don't really have like, like podcasts, like independent journalists, independent thinkers to talk about all these things. So yeah, we are kind of restricted, but maybe now it's not, it's kind of a little different. Example, like we have Rogan that comes out and talk about various things that, it's being listened to worldwide and people has like a better view about things now. But
Mhm.
in general, if you are not interested in it, you will probably lean more left.
That's interesting. So, like on your it your home country, are they saying that like so you've been seeing the news through there. Do they like seem to think that Kamala is good? Like, is that the vibe that she's the way forward, or is it
So I feel that people think that Kamala is better just because of how Trump portray himself. People are just overly sensitive about what is being
Mhm.
spoken about, and I would just say that he's just a New Yorker. He's just talking like a New Yorker, which some people
Yeah, he just
just
talks like a
find
guy. Yeah.
he just feels so offensive about it, about his unfiltered speech and all that. So if you are really looking at that and the how the news portray it, um, it's just bad. Like for example, like when did the New York rally happen? On Sunday. So the New York
Mhm.
rally happened on Sunday. So what is being spoke in the local news was that the rally is racist and vulgar. So I watched the rally. I didn't think that it was racist. I didn't think that it was vulgar. I thought that
Mhm.
Dr. Phil's speech was pretty good, calling for unification. So I don't know where did it come from.
Right.
And you know that that's where it comes from and who is the source that's talking about this. Yeah, so that's kind of how it is.
Yeah. How was, I don't know how widely it was reported, but the assassination attempt on Trump, how was that kind of talked about abroad?
They did talk about it, but it's just kind of pretty brief. Just that, he's been shot. I don't think they actually reported on the second assassination, but only just the first one.
Right.
Mhm.
One thing that we need to note that, for example, like we talk about in United States, we talk about a lot about the abortion,
Mhm.
how people try to have it as a what do you like a they want it to be like a federal regulation instead of a state regulation.
Mhm.
That's one thing that people back home don't understand because
Right.
um, I guess most countries don't have this, but I might be wrong about the like a federal and state kind of rulings because it's just built differently, so they don't really understand, but to them it's like, oh, they are trying to get rid of abortion, but they don't realize that in United States it functions differently, which is like at the state level or the federal level. So there's like a misunderstanding about that. um it's also not widely reported about how some states or some people wants to abort the baby at 9 months or even right when the baby is being born. So that's
Mhm.
some things that people don't really know. Also about how the um transgendering of children. That's not
Mhm.
something that's being talked about too in local news. So the issues that we face here is not really widely being talked about outside. So maybe if it's being talked about, the general view will be different just because people back home are more traditional.
Right.
I think the important thing is that, every time you talk about um showing charity to an illegal, try to be compassionate about, why they are here for various reasons. I don't really want to speculate, but then think about the legals that did all the paperwork and the red tape to be here, and to really want to do the right thing and to be here. I don't speak for like all the legal immigrants being here. I'm sure there's certain handful. There's always like bad eggs or bad sheep in a group of people, but generally most of us want to contribute to United States and to be like a productive citizen or person for the society. Um, so wherever you talk about it, just think about, the legal that is here. And then the second part is, I won't say that, like in general, most Americans are not racist, but there is still a handful of people that are racist. Or so before you judge someone that speaks with an accent, think about it and then, ask yourself, the person speaks with an accent because they speak another language. So they are probably better than you. So don't don't do that. Don't judge, just because someone speaks with an accent. Um, at least they try to speak English. And,
Mhm.
being in United States, if you don't speak English or attempt to learn to speak English, I don't think you should be here. It's just as you going to China and expecting them to speak English to you. I don't think that's gonna happen. They probably curse you out. So, yeah.
But you don't know what they're saying. They're just
Well, they look
sorry.
upset, they look mad, so they probably curse you out. So,
Right.
No, but I mean, it's a good point. You don't know people's stories, so it's always best to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm with you. I would prefer that we were giving resources and opportunities to people who chose to do things the way that our laws were set out for them to be done. And there's lots of different situations, and I think some people are coming out of desperation and different things, but I also think a lot of people are taking advantage because we're so lax, and that's where we have issues. It's not A lot of people think that, oh, you don't like the immigrants, you don't it's not that. It's that we have a very broken system and we need to fix it because
y-
it's not sustainable.
yes, I do agree that America has a very broken system, and um, firstly, the law being said is not upheld. So that's
Hmm.
one issue that, that's why there's so many of these things going on. Like a he say, she say kind of thing. Let's just go back to the law. And there's no he say, he say this and she say that, they say that.
Hmm.
Okay, no, let's not argue about it. Just look at the law, what's happening. And other than that is that, people like with the layoffs going on and all that, there's one group of people that people talk a lot about, which is the work visa people, which is we call them the H1B. Not really able to speak much into it, but that's the one thing that people don't understand is that this system is a lottery system. So all these work visa people are in a lottery. So once their visa expires, they will go into a lottery and then it will determine whether they will get their visa renewed. So it's not like you get it and you will be here forever kind of thing because you are still at the mercy of the system.
Yeah,
And
it's not a
most of
merit-based system. It's you might get it again.
Yes, you might get it again, but to get a H1B is not an easy process too, because companies will need to prove that they cannot find an American or a skill or it's a special skill that you can't find it in United States and you need to get this person in. So it's also not an easy process and companies spend money to get, most of all this immigration thing people paid money to get an attorney to get it done just because of how complex it is and they don't really want to deal with the paperwork and all that, so that's always a sum of fees there. And if you don't realize that, immigration attorneys is a very good business here too. So yeah.
If you're looking for a new job, maybe that's something to get into because it's
Well, basically, you just read the rules and do as it is. It's just
Yeah.
testing your patience. That's all. Whether will you, but some people just don't really want to, sit down and look through it and go through the headache and all that and have someone to tell you what you need and you just provide it and they do the filing and all that. So yeah.
Yeah. It's it's very interesting, and I'm really happy that you decided to share your time with us and talk to us about it because I think a lot of people were like me. I don't know what Anne knew, but I knew almost nothing before you came on and told us about all the stuff that you had to do. Um, and I think that our viewers are going to really enjoy kind of seeing what it's like from somebody who's had to go through it. It's very nice to get your perspective. But I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come and talk to us.
I realize that a lot of people have no idea because every time I talk about it, the mention is the 90 days fiance. Oh yeah, you came through that 90 days. Oh, I got married. Oh yeah, you got a US citizenship now. It's like, no, I don't get a
Yeah.
US citizenship. You don't get married and get a
I
US citizenship
know.
anymore.
That's
That's not
yeah.
that's like the old, I guess the old rules is that I'm not sure. I didn't look it up, but it's no longer that way. It's different now. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of people that don't realize, you know, all these things, and I'm only able to speak on one process, but different process has a different things that they go through, and there's a lot of things to talk about in immigration. And one thing that I feel that, I have my husband's friend, nephew's girlfriend, her parents came into United States illegally, and she grew up here. So now they are trying to get married, but she has no status in United States. So that's another immigration process to talk about. Um, in this case, should we actually grant her like a US citizenship since she grew up here and it's not, she didn't want to be here because her parents brought her here. She didn't know anything as a child. So that's another whole thing to talk about before you go to like the illegal people that you want to
Mhm.
talk about. And then another group of people that you know um that's not being talked about are the people that are being adopted and then they didn't have the paperwork and they are being sent back home to a place that they don't even recognize. They live in the United States all their life. So what about that group of people? So
Yeah.
like being said that it's a very broken system and um yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of nuance. It's not just a lot of it isn't just straightforward, which is, something that has to be worked through, but something has to be done. It doesn't make sense for you to have to prove that you and your husband are truly married by own like all of these things that are somewhat arbitrary and then I could go on. But I'm just saying it for you it seems like almost over the top. I understand that some people do the marriage thing where they get married just to get in the
Yeah.
country, but then you've got these other groups that a little less oversight over here, maybe a little bit more over here would help all the situations, I guess is my point.
I guess there's no good way to actually prove or
Yeah.
try to counter marriage fraud, and that's probably like the best way now. I mean, I
Hmm.
cannot think of a better way for that, maybe like install a camera in my house and figure it out and kind of thing, but I don't know, but
It's
I
a
can't
little
think of a better
invasive,
way.
little invasive.
Yeah.
Well, at least I don't have to do the paperwork. You can look at the video for 30 days.
I mean, I guess the 90-day fiance thing isn't that crazy after all then.
Well, that's only the part one, that's the proof of marriage is part three that you need to do it. So,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, that's so funny. Um, all right. Well, thank you for coming. It's been fantastic. I really have enjoyed talking to you so much and learning all of this stuff. And I appreciate it. Right,
No
Anne?
problem.
It's been awesome.
It,
It's great
it
talking to
has
you.
been. Um, so thank you for coming, and for our viewers, make sure you check out Chicken Lady Fiber Arts because she's very cool and we love her. And also Bone Frog Coffee because we love coffee here. So links are in the description.
Yep, Goldfinch 20 PIK for 20% off your order of Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. She does have more bird colorways. I love all of them. I love each and every single one of them. They're so beautiful. Check it out. Sign up for her newsletter, chickenladyfiberarts.com. And as DK said, Bone Frog Coffee, that will also be in the description. Yeah.
Yep. And thank you, Robin, for coming. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. We'll see you on election night. We're going to be live on election night, so thank you. All right.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.